Welcome. Good to see you. Come on in. Let's get this party started. Welcome, everyone, to our book study. I was looking at the book study calendar this morning, and two things. On the 27th, I'll be filming for the documentary for the next two episodes. So on the schedule, Susan is going to be the host and Rosalind will be co-host for the 27th of September. And we still need a co-host for October the 4th. That'll be the day after, 2 days after we get back from filming. And then I just wanted to mention that it looks like on the calendar, on the schedule, if we go through November and December, we'll end this book on January 3rd. So I'll be repopulating the schedule and sending it out to the co-hosts and seeing if, making sure that you have availability through December and ending this book study on January 3rd. And then we'll probably have a short pause and then pick it back up. Jenny Beal mentioned a couple of books. We'll pick up one of those books she mentioned in the 2024. And I'm not sure what we'll do it while we're in India, but we'll be in India in February of 24. Some of us here and myself for sure will be gone for a couple of weeks. And so that's just a kind of an update. And thank you all for being here. And thank you, Jenny Sheehan, for being our co-host today. It's good to see you.
Yeah, glad to
Always.
be here. Yeah.
Well, we're looking
Thanks,
at,
Bill.
and Dan, if you're around, I'm going to email you, Dan, just because I really haven't checked in with you to see if I can add you as a regular open spot on the schedule. So I'll be contacting you as well. And William Price says, I'll be in the sky flying to Asia on the 4th of October. Sorry. Well, have fun up there in the air. We'll miss you, William. And let's see, we're on 291. What is it that manifests? You want to get started?
Yeah, let's go. Every perception, quality, or attribute wants a permanent background for its existence. This background is the reality itself. To denote the reality, we give it a name, but still this background remains as that which transcends senses and mind. I love this next paragraph. It cannot be called unknown. I say it is even more than known, not by the senses or mind, but by consciousness or the I principle. Thus, the background of everything is the one reality itself. When you say that the unknown exists, it means that you have known it, right? If it can be named, actually, it's sort of known. You know?
Mm-hmm.
When the mind says that there is something transcending the mind itself transcends its realm and, standing as pure consciousness, knows that something is real. And we notice in this, capital R reality, he does that sometimes with, later in the discourse, we see capital S for self.
Yeah, I really love this too. I like the how clear it is that once one has understanding, that understanding it no longer separates all the parts, even though they may be named. They're never separate from the subject. They're never separate from you. So it's that understanding that it actually, it's the, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. And one is established. as subject, and then goes back and picks up, oh, and I'm all of these. These are all of me, of the I principle. Yeah, that's
Beautifully
awesome.
stated. Yeah.
That's good. And then I like that last sentence that says the mind itself transcends. So if you can sort of stay with that idea, the mind itself transcends its realm. So the body mind, or even the realm of movement, and standing as pure consciousness, knows that something is as real. And so it's sort of, it almost dissolves into pure consciousness. It's sort of, and doesn't really dissolve, but it's realized as itself, as real.
Yes, and the words transcending thought, really, that activity of mind beyond
Yeah.
itself, beyond thought, is where the realization takes place.
I know it gets hard to talk about. Let's see. It says on the board, Rick said, "What manifests? It's reality itself that manifests. In fact, there is always and only one thing ever going on, and that's just a pointer. In fact, it's not even a thing." But see, Rick, you're getting caught up in it too, right? Yeah. But that's about the best thought can do. Thought cannot understand. Similarly, the description is never the described. Yes, reality is the background to every perception, sensation, and object, etc. Furthermore, reality is the specific perception, sensation, or object itself. Consciousness knows itself by experiencing itself. It's the only thing that can be known, experienced, the only certainty. Yeah, awesome.
And I thank you, Rick. Beautifully stated. And Andrew asked, how can you say the unknown exists? Well, I think I see that as a little flavor of humor that he uses, because if, in my understanding, if we understand that there's something, we just don't know what it is yet, the mind doesn't know how to label it, then it exists. Whether it's that a sense of something, and even the word, the perfume of something that it pervades beyond the experience. So if one is talking, I don't know this, there's actually a knowing of it. So
Without
I
knowing, without having a name for this, there's a knowing
prior to the
Yes.
naming, and that's why it's technically not unknown. In the recognition of the unknowing, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to have for dinner tonight. And this is a little bit of a simple example, but there is the unknowing. I know there will be a meal.
Well,
So it
know.
exists. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't a very good example, but if it can be labeled even with the word unknown, then something exists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rick said, I often view words like manifestation, experiencing, and creation as being very similar in nature. However, the big difference is that I sense that there can be experience without creation or manifestation. That is the experience of absence. These are great words to contemplate, to come to understand them. in a manner that cannot be accurately conveyed, only seen or understood. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
What did Jenny say? I didn't see that. Amy said Jenny said something.
Oh, it was just in me talking to Andrew with that, the understanding that if there's a sense of not knowing, and we might even call it unknown, what is prior to that? It something exists.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And Amy, this is the reference. If I know that I don't know, I know something, even if it's all I know that I don't know.
Yeah.
That's funny. Who is there to know not knowing? Well, it's not a who. It's not a who. Right? Right?
Right.
William Price?
Yeah.
Okay. 292, karma yoga according to the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. The action consists of doership and enjoyership. In karma yoga, you are first asked to renounce by thought the fruits of your actions. This helps you only to annihilate the enjoyership. The more important aspect, namely the doership, has next to be dealt with. Both these could be transcended only by knowledge of the truth. This made me, we came across this a couple weeks ago in 272, really dug into action and actionlessness, and the remember the Atmananda's purporting that the direct path is the most efficient path, and one can do karma yoga, but it is a progressive path of undoing. And he nails that at the last sentence. Both the doership and the enjoyership can be transcended by knowledge of the truth, by knowledge of the self we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And remember, the doership and enjoyership is superimposed after activity. That's the sense of a separate self claiming ownership. And in the understanding of our true nature, like you just said, Bill, which is not a who, both the doership and enjoyership, dissolve.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's interesting to just sort of bring the understanding in, ruminate on it, or marinate, or contemplate, whatever. It's a kind of a settling in of understanding. William Price, who is the name of God in the Sufi tradition? Who? Oh, you wrote that just to me, William. It's not on the board.
What I'm saying is the question of who and the name of God in Arabic are both the self.
Oh, really?
I mean, how can there be a who without being the self? Because whatever answer you come up with always goes back to the primal consciousness.
Right. Yeah. The idea of a who is usually the personification of an it. it usually
Yeah.
personalizes the
Let's not get hung
formula.
up in pronouns.
Right, right, sure. Good point. Thank you. And let's move to 293, different definitions of mind.
Yes, this is helpful. Was helpful for me.
Can you
Yo-
say that? What's that first? Can you say that word vasishta?
I'll try it. Yoga Vasista. Vasista. The mind is that which oscillates between consciousness and inert matter. According to the Upanishad, the mind is only the name of a function, Vrityanama. According to Swami Vivekananda, the mind is not a substance in itself, but only that standpoint viewed from which the absolute appears diversified as the manifested world. And our loved Guru Tanan, who's Atmananda, this is a familiar term we learned. Mind is consciousness itself, appearing limited.
I like both those descriptions. They really point to the Swami is pointing to the consciousness as diversified in form or in the manifest world, and then the next one is that it's now given understanding that it's a limited nature of the absolute. It's not really limited. It just appears that it's limited.
Yeah, and a couple of modern day teachers, like Rupert and Francis Lucille, they explicitly teach that it's a function of consciousness. Francis Lucille says mind is the flow of experience, the flow of perception. And we start understanding that without mind, there's no experience of the world. It's an integral part of our being.
Right. Yeah. 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 It's really remarkable the way you see things a little bit different. Seeing the same thing, but without judging, without having so much judgment on it. I mean, you could still have judgment on things, and that will happen. And yet, if you have judgment on things, it's because you have joined it. You've limited yourself to the object. So it's a good kind of a litmus test. Who's the I that's judging? Well, it must be the body mind. I forgot who I am. Oh, there's the who word. Okay.
We can get caught up in in the verbiage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about looking at 294?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
What does self-luminous mean? Self-luminous means that which does not need the help of another light to manifest itself or prove its existence. You know you exist, so the I principle alone is self-luminous. And there, that's a sentence to underline, just the simple fact of being. I am. There's the I am, that I exist. And in the knowing of that, and in pure knowing of that, not mind doesn't have to be involved. because in deep sleep we exist, right? So it's self-luminous, meaning it needs nothing else to be. The world is all dead matter. You cannot say it exists until you lend the light of your own self to manifest it. It can shine only by your light. In other words, the world has a borrowed existence, which, Bill, you just beautifully described. You know, that it's mind that helps manifestation come into perception. But we don't need perception to exist. So the I principle alone has an original or independent existence. Whatever is not self-luminous can only have a borrowed existence. And that's a word I know Rupert uses a lot, borrows. You know, objects borrow the light of I'm using our consciousness. The light of consciousness lights up objects.
Yeah, that's like the moon. It looks lit, but it's dead matter. It's getting the reflection of the sun that's lighting the moon, and we look at the moon and it's lit up. It's just dead matter borrowing its existence of light from the sun.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So 295, what is the apparent variety in forms?
Yes. Well, there is no variety in forms. And then he proceeds to give the reasoning and logic behind that statement. You say there are many forms, and you use the word form to denote all forms. This form, that form, etc. What is that form which is common to all forms? It is changeless and therefore beyond the realm of the mind. This touches on the very first discourse we chatted about.
Yeah.
So you simply use the word form and drag it down to the realm of the mind and make it stand for what it is not. Things extraneous to form are brought in to create the variety. Form is one and the same. It is changeless and hence beyond the realm of the mind. Therefore, form, when rightly examined, is the ultimate reality itself. And there's our capital R again. Hence, there is no variety in forms. Likewise, there's no variety in other sense objects as well. Thus, man is the ultimate reality. Tree is the ultimate reality. Flower is the ultimate reality. So the background of the seeming form is what Atmananda teaches us is capital R reality, manifesting in its multitude of form. But what we focus on is an understanding of that deeper aspect, the foundational aspect.
Right. Yeah. The important thing here, I think, is you can't start here because you would be misappropriating what's being offered, what's being said to a body mind. So this can only be stated at a point of understanding. Yeah. William, did you have something you wanted to say on this? You have your hand up. Is that a mistake? Your camera's off, mic's off. Yeah.
Bill,
Yeah.
I love this lengthy aphorism. It just rang so many bells, especially the third to the last paragraph when he goes into clay. I just thought that was incredible, and the analogy to Adam being created out of clay, and then later when St. Paul says, I think it's in Corinthians, we are all pots of clay. I mean, it's all the stuffedness,
Coming together.
the reification of consciousness, making a thing out of nothing, right? Like in Midsummer's Night's Dream, Shakespeare says, the poet's pen brings into name and form it's just, this is it right here. I mean, it's that apparent reification or making a thingness out of just pure consciousness. It's just, the poets have waxed, on this for a long time. Thank you, Lindsay. That's a beautiful comment. Anyway, I just wanted to bring up the beauty of the clay analogy, and then it made me think about Rupert, of course, working with the clay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Thanks a
Literally,
lot
yeah.
for letting me share.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, you're right. You're right, William. Thank you for sharing that.
No, wonderful. And what Bill was saying, the generic and all cases is the ultimate reality. And the next couple of paragraphs kind of describe, Bill, what you were alluding to perhaps is that, the neti process of taking away, just subtracting, reducing from the apparent objective perception and what is left. And yeah, William, you really touch on this. It's everywhere, right? Truth is everywhere. It's not limited to, no one has a hold on it. So let's read the clay paragraph. Suppose there are several forms impressed on a surface of clay. In order to perceive the different forms, the basic idea of clay has first to be forgotten. But we invariably ignore the fact that without the clay, none of the forms can exist. In other words, without a changeless background, diversity cannot exist. The general rule by which the inquiry into truth of this world proceeds is from the particular to the general. So in order to explain the variety in objects and perceptions, we have to get to the background and then look at the parent variety. Then we see the variety vanishes altogether, which you pointed to, Bill, first to examine subject, the I that exists, the I that I know I am. And then there's after understanding, an ability to go outward and then examine the world in the light of truth.
Yeah.
And of course, he adds the last line, he sort of adds this, which could be a whole other discourse. All of our suffering is created by our being captivated by variety and our forgetting the background on which the variety appears. So again, in that practice, which is not a practice, named about inquiring from the particular to the general, is also in that practice will be relief from suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. He walks us all the way through it. And I love I love the symbol of the clay and the way it's it does really speak to, it's so funny. Paul was the Apostle Paul was, as William had mentioned, he was getting all this amazing download content, and yet it didn't get really communicated or translated in the clearest way. He could have used Atmananda, to help him sort of point him in the right direction. Christianity may have, missed all those huge wars and killing machines if they'd understood that. Funny. Not funny, but interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at 296. What is the relation between deep sleep and waking state? This always intrigues me. And you're the sleeping one. You're the one that puts people to sleep, doctor. So I'm always, and I've said this before, I love anesthesiologists. I don't know how you ended up on our watch here, but I love, and Angelo DeLullo is also anesthesiologist. You guys really you're sort of attracted to the truth, I guess, maybe by putting people into that state.
Right. It's pretty, looking back, I was definitely pulled into I never wanted to be an anesthesiologist, but something pulled me about it. And what I can tell you, even pointing back to the self-luminosity, there's no button we press or switch we flip for someone to regain the awake state. It's the dissolving of the medications with time, and that a person regains their consciousness. So it's interesting, that was always there, the self-illumination of, but that's what he talks about here. The same thing happens every night when we sleep.
I love that. I love that you just kind of paralleled those two.
Yeah, totally. But let's see what Atmananda has to say.
Yeah.
It's often stated that a man wakes up from deep sleep on hearing a sound, meaning thereby that hearing the sound was the cause of his waking up. And how familiar is this to anyone who's ever shared a sleeping space with somebody else? You woke me up last night with your snoring or your moving. But Atmananda says, no one makes uses of senses or mind in deep sleep because they are not there. So the sound could not have been heard in deep sleep. When it was heard, he must have certainly been in the waking state. So that's exactly what he's pointing to. No, there was awakeness present, then the sound was heard.
That's a really good point.
Right. Technically, you're already awake when we're using the technical definitions of deep sleep, dreaming, and awake. And the pure consciousness is the deep sleep. The dreaming mind is on board, and the awake state, mind and body are on board. But just begin to notice there's a hazy period prior to mind and body really coming online, and we're often not aware of that, but that's where the sound might land, or the noticing the nudge of a partner in a shared bed, and here he's very specific. An experience definitely belonging to the waking state, i.e. perception, can never be said to be the cause of the waking state. So the statement is wrong, and it is not the sound that woke him up. And then he tells us, hey, just like what happens every day, usually you wake up from the deep sleep state and you cannot find a cause for it. Why can you not assume that you likewise came to the waking state and heard a sound? Why do you want a cause for the waking up? That's because we love our deep sleep, and something is not happy when it's disturbed.
That's a mind blower right there. It really, it almost implies that that because consciousness is always is, it determines when the waking mind comes online. The
It's in
waking
charge.
mind doesn't have any choice in the matter.
It doesn't.
Right.
No, and too, the very first discourse is, how is deep sleep a key to the ultimate? And Atmananda, it shines through everything. Just pay attention to the falling asleep and the waking up, and there we can glimpse ourselves.
Yep. Right there. It's a nanosecond, and you notice it. It's glimpses.
And of course, it's always there. We're just becoming aware of it. It doesn't, nothing changes except an awareness of what's happening. And that's what we're doing here together, raising awareness.
And even in that, the awareness of waking up is after the fact. Just very subtle, but it's nanosecond after. If we're naming it and cognizing it, it's already happened.
So true. Yeah.
Barbara said, so awareness, because consciousness is in all states? Question mark. William said, Turiya is always awake, that which is beyond the three states, the self. So there's always the background of awakeness, is what that's saying. And then Barbara, so awareness, because consciousness is in all states, is a question. And yes, that's true.
Right. There's only consciousness. In the Western world, we say it backwards. We say we're unconscious when we're asleep and we're conscious when we're awake. I'm talking about the body, mind. But in the learning, and what William pointed to in deep sleep, that is pure consciousness. The body's not on board and the mind is not on board. Pure existence, the sat of the Satchitananda. And awareness, the awareness of being conscious, I don't know for sure. I think mind is involved somehow with that. But yes, pure consciousness is present in all three states. And I think William pointed to that with the Turiya.
Well, if there's sometimes sometimes people use the word awareness as the witness, and others use awareness as consciousness, and those are two different subtle. They're a little bit different, and I think what's being said here is that awareness and consciousness are the same. It's the absolute I principle.
Great point. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Where are we?
We can move
298?
to 297.
Oh, 297. Okay.
Yeah, I think if we
The
I can
Kish-
try. I have practiced
Kashan-
these words.
Kashanika. I'll do one. The Kashanika Vijnanian.
Yeah. Janika Vinyanin.
Right.
I did practice that. And the Advaitin's position. According to the Janika Vinyanin, the conception of a jnana is a mere idea. It is not self-luminous. The Janika Vinyanin believes that the conception of Atma is an illusion, like the ring of fire appearing by the rapid movement of a lighted torch. Now, in that term that we are doing our best to pronounce is in the back of the glossary in the third volume. And the definition is the Janika Vinyanin is one of a class who believe that knowledge is momentary or time limited. So then we say the torch by its movement appears at different points in rapid succession. Evidently, in relation to the ring of fire, the torch is more real. And we've probably, the fireworks, the sparklers, that is a typical celebration often used. You can think about it as a kid, you move it around and then you notice that there's the tails end up making rings around it. But the Krishna Vyanin admits that there are many ideas, the torches of itself. Who can make a comparison between these several ideas? The perceiver alone, and not any one of the several ideas. Therefore, the Advaitin says that the holder or the perceiver of the several ideas alone can compare them and come to a conclusion. That perceiver must be self-luminous in order to do so. That is Atma. That is the real I principle. Whose ideas are they? My ideas. So I am the holder.
Right. So the my is the absolute.
Yes, he's the, even in the definition, there's a belief that someone who follows this philosophy or religion, but again, Atmananda points to what's underneath the belief, pointing at what is it that is aware of the different ideas. And he's saying that is the I principle. That is Atma. Atma, the self. That is our true nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he doesn't defend the idea of the concept, which is brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There was a question and then an answer. Question 2. So there were 2 questions. The second question was, I have heard spiritual groups say, raise your consciousness. Is this possible, or is it a concession to language? Jenny says, no, impossible. There is only one consciousness. It has no levels or qualities. Not even a concession, just wrong. Jenny, could you be more clear on that?
Thank you. Yes, we love your
Thank you.
clarity.
Good. Just wrong. Next. That's funny. Thank you, Jenny.
This conversation started with something earlier, which I think is super important. The question was asked, what's the difference between consciousness and conscious?
Okay, that's the question I was missing. Thank you. Thank you, Rosalind. In my mind, the difference between consciousness and conscious is more of the personal, the body mind experience. It's time and space based. It's labels. It's duality. Consciousness, the way we're talking about it here, is the absolute I am, I principle, formless, wordless being, presence. So conscious is time and space. Consciousness is absolute.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Prior to and.
Yeah. Thank you, Rosalind, for picking that up.
And I see we use the word consciousness, but really when we're talking about conscious, it's an aspect of mind. It's an aspect of consciousness itself, the self-awareness aspect. So it's not consciousness itself, it's an attribute of it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then there's another twister thought here. What about conscience? Conscience is only born of differences and labels, and implies memory, all of those kinds of things, also time and space.
Right. The phrase is, he or she has a conscience because she's so nice or good to other people or something. But often that conscience is rooted in a sense of separation and separate self. So it's
if you use the idea of where's your conscience, man? And so that would imply, where's your goodwill? Where's your compassion, et cetera, everything. And that's still time and space based. Everything is informed.
And that it's a judgment.
Right. Yeah. And yet everything is coming from consciousness. Everything is coming from there ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting way down the rabbit hole here, Lynn. Let's keep going. Realization and establishment. You hear truth from the lips of your guru, following the words, their sense, and their goal, which is the ultimate. You rise from level to level. Oh, here's where he talks about sort of progressive understanding. You rise from level to level, from body to mind, and from there to consciousness. On thus hearing the truth from one's guru, the understanding of the truth is immediate, instantaneous, and complete. Soon after, you come back to the body idea. The truth that is heard from the lips of the guru takes the disciple from level to level to the ultimate reality. In order to get established there, the disciple has to remove innumerable obstacles. In order to get established there, the disciple has to remove innumerable obstacles. The knowledge of the truth that he has acquired from the guru helps him to overcome all obstacles. When this is done, realization is complete.
Right. I love, he kind of points to that. There's beyond words is an understanding, and it's a realization is complete in the instant of the transmission. But yet it's still something may seem to happen in time, and it's kind of the establishment of it to reside as that in living as the self may seem to take time and removing of numerable obstacles. So he doesn't speak. Remember, Atmananda does not. He's an inward pointing teacher, the direct path, the way for self-realization. He doesn't speak much of the outward path afterwards, but he does in this paragraph that there seems work to be done. The work that's not work, because it all happens of itself.
Right. And he's also describing the normal activity of awakening and the process of removing obstacles. This is A Course in Miracles, removing the obstacles to the awareness of love's presence. And purification is necessary for most beings, even on the direct path. When you've had a glimpse or a full-on experience, you usually have to go back and clean up the obstacles. Oh, Jenny Beal is typing what she has to say. Okay.
But nothing needs to be cleaned up.
What do you mean?
Nothing needs to be cleaned up. It's all perfectly unfolding as it is. Otherwise, there's, maybe people that aren't on this path we might view as separate, but they're perfectly in their own. It's just all consciousness expressing itself in different forms, different ways, but none is better than any other.
Right. This is where the ego comes in and goes, I need to fix this.
Yes.
I need to wake up. I need to help him or her. I have to do more. I need to study more. I need to be in more courses. Yeah. Exactly. Jenny Beal says, I think he is referring to noticing and understanding the implications of teaching. Those implications are often overlooked through habit until you go back to contemplate what the guru said. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah. He's such a good teacher. He would have been amazing to sit with, right? Actually, we are sitting with him right here.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the realization is complete, but I love how Jenny pointed to the referential takes place with what's happening now, and perhaps a notice of a disturbance in peace. Then that just opens up a space for some reflection and contemplation.
Yeah.
And to look at what's going on in reference to what one learned from a teacher,
Yeah.
And everyone's perfect where they are. It's remembering that the truth.
That's good.
Speaking of, right, because of we being and becoming. There's a sense of a lot of us maybe even started in this place. We want to be a better person. I want to become a nicer, kinder, gentler soul, or I want to be good. And he kind of answers this right in 299. Being and becoming cannot go together. When you are striving to become the truth, you are admittedly away from the truth. And when you are in the being or truth, there is no need for any striving at all to become the truth. Another way of saying that, when you are at the center, manifestation is not perceived. And when you are at the manifestation, you are outside of your center. So the I principle and the manifestation can never meet.
That's because they're always one.
Exactly. There's no separation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the subject, the I principle subject, and the manifestation, the object, it's here now happening. There's no separation.
Mm-hmm. There was a few comments on the chat. Have to be careful about this. It can go the other way. We can hold on to our actions and justify them with the perfectness of the unfolding.
Yes, Pragati, beautiful point. Excellent. I can only know within myself where an action is coming from. Was it in ignorance or was it in wisdom? Just to make a point. But I am not able to do that about anybody else's action. And in my experience, I notice it as a loss of peace, which is just an indicator that, maybe I wasn't acting, what got out of alignment there, that the natural flow of peace wasn't occurring.
But there's a there's a entering into the judgment zone, or just resting as awareness of the experience without judgment. And consciousness cleans it all up. We have a self-cleaning system.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay. Amy said, yes, but ask who is justifying. Who is served by the justification? The question is a pointer, but it's all good. Yeah, and even the questions come in for just looking, for seeing, for resting, for presence to reveal or remember or know itself.
Right. And it's all happening in consciousness. It's not even my ignorance or my wisdom. It's all happening in consciousness. And until that awareness of what's going on occurs, until that wake up, one is just being as they are. And then we lose, sociopaths, psychopaths, all these labels we put on people that don't seem to have a conscience. we say, take a step back, and it's all just happening in consciousness. And there's not a bad and there's not a good. And that's really scary to realize.
Yeah.
It brings up fear, rather. It can really bring up a lot of fear.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, thank you for that. Jenny, what were you typing? I saw you typing something, but I don't. Oh, there it is. I think. Oh no, you said. Did you not press enter? Oh, there it is. Spiritual ego is an important issue. There will be a good explanation of this in the November Living and Not Knowing podcast. Oh, good. Thank you for that. Yeah. Hope you're signed up for that. It's free. And I think it is, right? Yeah, that's the awareness podcast. Yeah.
Right. And it just a quick and dirty from my understanding, and please chime in, Jenny, that the spiritualized ego can kind of want to co-opt the process of establishing in consciousness and decide, this needs fixing, that needs fixing. I am impure. I need perfecting, and that is just another identity. It's a new identity, but something else that is being clinged to instead of the total surrender to what is.
Yeah, that's well put. Thank you, Jenny. And I think Jenny is responding. Mostly it's I. Link,
Yeah.
please. Oh, William Price is looking for a link for the podcast. So if you can drop that link in the chat, please, that would be great.
Yeah.
We have one more. What do I love? What do I love? You
It's a
say
great
you love.
question.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
good. Go ahead.
Oh, you can start.
You say you love your wife, but suppose she passes away and you are left alone near her dead body. Oh, this is so good. I mean, we're talking about dead bodies, but this is really good. At the dead of night, it creates in you not the feeling of love as before, but a creeping sensation from head to foot.
Which it could be that it's severely underestimated what a lot of people experience.
I don't think I've ever seen a dead body.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I've seen someone dying and left the room, but I don't think I've ever seen it after.
You've never been to a wake?
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I'm talking about fresh, like just died. I haven't seen that. This shows that before her death, you were not extending your love. I'm going to start over.
Yeah.
But suppose you say you love your wife, but suppose she passes away and you are left alone near her dead body at the dead of night. It creates in you not the feeling of love as before, but a creeping sensation from head to foot. This shows that before her death or his death, you were not extending your love to that inert body part still lying before you, but only to the life principle in it, which has already left the body. I love that. That's a great, I love that. That sounds like a really good experience. This life principle can easily be proved to be changeless consciousness, which knows no birth or death. Your real nature is changeless consciousness. Therefore, it is clear that you love only yourself, even in the form of other objects or persons. We can each one take that in, own it. That's a beautiful statement.
Rick,
Hence the Upanishads. Oh, go ahead.
I was just what Rick wrote is lovely. Only love can really love. It's love loving itself. Realize love can't be undone. There's no falling out of love. Love is one of the many beautiful attributes of reality. It cannot be accurately described, only experienced, understood. Again, that beyond words, beyond the mind sense of knowing.
Yeah, very nice. Thanks for that. In India, they made us sit with dead bodies. Well, when I was in India, they were right out in the open, getting ready to burn them and stuff, right next to the Ganges River. It was it's in different cultures, it's not uh, hidden or kind of obscure. Amy said Tibetan Buddhists meditate in the graveyard of bones with bodies, vultures, and other scavengers can't imagine. But what a teaching, yes. Good. This
Kind
is
of
fun.
forcing one to realize that what it was, that untouchable aspect of someone, of another's being, that what really one loves about it.
The description here is so beautiful. Therefore, it is clear that you love only yourself, even in the form of the other objects or persons. Hence, the Upanishad says, a man does not love the wife for her sake, but only for the self in her. And the wife does not love the husband for his sake, but only for the self in him. When happiness
Yet,
comes, the mind dies.
right. And I did notice that paragraph from the Upanishad, and some curiosity came up. Did you notice that the self of the wife and the self of the husband are different? One's a lowercase s and the other is the uppercase s. And I wonder, is that a typo? Or is that what is that?
It has to
Find
be a
it
typo.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this also I remembered in Discourse 110, there's a lovely almost a chart that is shown for us for the kind of 3 different stages of love or kinds of love, and he goes into this here. The self is objectless love or peace. Love for self is degraded compared to pure love, or the capital S self. So love for the little s self, meaning like the personality, or maybe loving something for what it does for me or doesn't do for me, saying that's a degraded kind of love. The number 2, love gets more degraded when it becomes self-love. So again, lower S self, not referring to capital S self, the pure consciousness. And number 3, this love gets further degraded when it becomes love for objects. But still, love is there. You get back to it, it's in its purity. So there again, he's pointing us some action to take, or some practice, if there's practice, like what we said in the earlier, go from the particular to the general, neti kind of process. And because to reach your real center, the I principle, you have to retrace the whole course from objects to the self in reverse order. If in your love of objects, you are able to emphasize love, you will easily get to the love aspect, or the peace aspect of reality. Just as in your consciousness of objects, when you emphasize consciousness, you get to the consciousness aspect of the reality. So there you go, Barbara. Like, you could substitute awareness there in that last sentence.
Yeah.
So Bill, you say this last little bit.
Well, you love things for yourself, so you love the self more than anything else. So if you can, just incorporate that as self-love, not personal self-love, but love for love in all things, in all experience. Right. Barbara has her hand up. Hi, Barbara. Thank you for putting your hand up.
Yeah, I was just thinking what you were saying, because I know there's confusion, but truthfully, when we're in relationships, any of us, like when I had my son pass away, and I was there for 10 passings in 11 years, because it was quite the thing. But what I did find in it is the miracle of it. It's like if somebody said to you, wow, Lisa is so beautiful. And you look at it and you go, well, I don't know that because she looks like me. You get in relationships and it's not ego anymore. It's this oneness in it. There's no division, no separation. And when I was with my son, it was the same way. The body was there, but the life wasn't there. It didn't leave. It didn't go anywhere. I felt that. I knew that. But it was oneness in him a moment before he passed away to the moment he was integrated. But if somebody said to me, what did your son look like? He looked like me. I can't explain that to anyone, but my children, I don't see them as, oh, she's a beautiful woman or he's a handsome man. People tell you, you say the words, but the truth is, it feels like me. And that's the love, I think, that's in that connection. Your dog, your cat, when you're loving it, you're not loving it as a cat or a dog. You're loving it as yourself. That's just my opinion, but that's my experience with very deep love of consciousness, because it's all consciousness folding into itself.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it sounds like you're pointing to that unconditionality, just the pure presence, the pure being of the seeming other is what is the relationship is occurring.
Yeah, it sounds exactly what Atmananda is describing. Precise, I mean, exactly the same. And that I'm sure that in your own experience, I would imagine that is translating into that experience beyond even the people that are closest to you, because it's a universal love experience. And you'll probably, it'd be like that. All of a sudden you go, wow, I'm in love with everything. You know what I mean? I'm in love with everyone and everything. And I think that's part and parcel to the awakened state. Yeah, beautiful. Well, that ends these discourses. Thank you for sharing that, Barbara, and blessings to you and your heart and your love of your passing son, and that experience that's left with you.
Yeah, love is never a bad note to end a conversation on.
I know, it's awesome. Well, thank you all for being here this week, and thank you, Jenny, for your co-hosting genius. Thank you, everyone that is involved in the chat and participating this way. And next week, Susan Telford will be our co-host, and looking forward to you sharing with us, Susan, and still looking for a co-host for October 4th. If you're that person, contact me, please. If Dan, if you're in the house, please send me an email if you're interested. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Great job.
Bye-bye.